California is no stranger to powerful weather, but what began unfolding across the state is the kind of setup meteorologists don't ignore. A high-impact storm system has locked its sights on central and southern California, bringing with it a dangerous combination of flooding rain, powerful winds, towering waves, and the rare but real possibility of tornadoes along the coast. This is not a single storm passing through. This is a pattern, a conveyor belt of atmospheric energy lining up over the Pacific and slamming into the West Coast with little time to recover between systems. As the first major storm begins to exit, another one is already forming behind it, deeper and more organized. Meteorologists describe it as a classic but dangerous California setup. Deep moisture pulled northward from the Pacific, a rapidly intensifying low-pressure system, and strong upper-level winds steering it directly into the state. Satellite imagery reveals swirling clouds offshore, massive spirals of moisture rotating counterclockwise, visual proof of a strengthening storm. One system pushes inland, while another dives in right behind it, stacking impact on top of impact. This is what forecasters call a very active pattern, and it sets the stage for a volatile and exhausting week ahead. At the heart of the concern is rain, relentless, widespread, and heavy. The Bay Area is among the first regions to feel the effects, with rainfall streaming in from the south and southwest. This isn't scattered precipitation. This is organized rainfall fueled by a deepening low-pressure center that has been strengthening at a rate of nearly 1 millibar per hour, an impressive and alarming pace for a coastal system. As the storm tightens its grip, rain bands stretch inland toward the foothills of the Sierra Nevada. Areas that normally rely on winter snowpack are instead seeing rain at elevations that should still be cold enough for snow. This shift dramatically increases runoff and raises flood risk downstream. One region drawing particular concern is the Santa Cruz Mountains. With steep terrain and narrow valleys, these mountains act like funnels. Heavy rain doesn't linger. It rushes downhill, feeding creeks and rivers that can quickly overflow into communities like Santa Cruz and San Jose. When rainfall rates exceed the land's ability to absorb water, flooding becomes inevitable. And this is just the first round. Meteorologists stress that the atmosphere is loaded with moisture, more than enough to sustain multiple waves of heavy precipitation. Even as one band weakens, another quickly replaces it. The ground never gets a chance to dry out, increasing the risk of flash flooding, landslides, and debris flows with each passing hour. But rain isn't the only concern. As the storm's cold front approaches, winds begin to converge across the region. In simple terms, air is rushing in from different directions and colliding. When that happens, especially over complex terrain like California's coastal ranges, the atmosphere can begin to spin. This is where the conversation turns serious. Severe weather in California is rare, but not impossible. And this setup has the ingredients needed to support brief tornadoes or rotating storm cells, particularly from Central California down through Southern California, including coastal areas near Los Angeles and San Diego County. Wind shear, a change in wind speed and direction with height, is clearly present. While overall storm energy may not be extreme, it doesn't have to be. When strong winds collide at the surface and are forced upward by mountains, hills, and coastal ridges, rotation can develop rapidly and unexpectedly. Meteorologists describe it as a low-end but real tornado threat, the kind that doesn't make headlines until it suddenly does. Meanwhile, offshore, waves build to dangerous heights. Strong winds over open water pile energy into the ocean, sending large, powerful surf toward the coast. Coastal erosion, high surf advisories, and beach flooding become additional threats layered onto an already overloaded system. And looming over all of this is time. This storm is not in a hurry. It moves steadily, slowly, allowing rain to accumulate hour after hour. The longer it lingers, the greater the danger becomes, especially in areas already saturated from previous storms. By the time the first system begins to weaken, another is already lining up behind it, promising more rain, more wind, and more strain on infrastructure that's already pushed to its limits. California is officially under siege by the atmosphere, and the week is just getting started. California's beauty is inseparable from its danger. And during a storm like this, the state's dramatic terrain becomes one of its greatest vulnerabilities. From the coastal mountains to inland valleys, from desert basins to urban centers, California's landscape shapes how storms behave, and in this case, it amplifies the risk. As rain intensifies, meteorologists shift their focus from snowfall totals to rainfall rates, and what they see is troubling. Heavy rain is not limited to the Bay Area alone. It stretches inland, climbing foothills and saturating slopes that were never designed to absorb prolonged downpours. The Santa Cruz Mountains once again stand out as a critical danger zone. Steep slopes mean water accelerates downhill, gaining speed and force. Creeks rise rapidly, and what begins as manageable runoff can quickly transform into destructive flooding. On one side of the mountains, water pours towards Santa Cruz. On the other, it drains towards San Jose. Either way, communities at lower elevations are at risk, especially when rainfall comes faster than storm drains and waterways can handle. But the real wild card lies in the atmosphere itself. As the storm's cold front advances, winds at different levels of the atmosphere begin crossing at sharp angles. Some winds blow parallel to the front. Others blow directly into it. This creates wind shear, one of the key ingredients for severe storms. In California, wind shear combined with terrain is especially dangerous. Mountains disrupt airflow, creating localized zones of rotation known as eddies. These spinning pockets of air don't need much energy to intensify, they just need the right push. And that push is coming. Meteorologists explain that during frontal passage, converging winds can briefly tighten rotation near the ground. When this happens in rain bands or embedded thunderstorms, small tornadoes can form with little warning. This threat extends from Central California down through Southern California, including densely populated coastal regions. While these tornadoes are typically short-lived and weaker than their Midwest counterparts, they can still cause significant damage, especially in urban areas unaccustomed to such events. Alongside the wind threat is a flood risk that spans nearly the entire region. Flood watches blanket Central and Southern California, not just burn scar areas but everywhere. That distinction matters. While burn scars are especially vulnerable due to the lack of vegetation, this storm carries enough rain to overwhelm even healthy ground. High deserts are another overlooked danger zone. Unlike forested or grassy regions, desert terrain cannot absorb large volumes of water quickly. Rain that falls on dry, compacted soil simply sits on the surface, spreading outward and flooding roadways, washes, and low-lying areas. Interstate corridors, including major north-south routes, become especially dangerous. Water collects rapidly, reducing visibility and traction. Flash flooding in desert areas often strikes with little warning, catching drivers off guard. And then there are the burn scars. Recent wildfire areas, where vegetation has been stripped away, are among the most unstable landscapes during heavy rain. Without roots to hold soil in place, slopes can fail suddenly. Mudslides, debris flows, and rock slides become real possibilities, even from moderate rainfall. Add repeated rounds of rain to the equation, and the danger multiplies. This storm isn't finished after one day. Meteorologists warn that a second round follows close behind the first, with little time for recovery. Soil becomes increasingly unstable, waterways remain swollen, and emergency response resources are stretched thinner with each passing hour. California's iconic coastal drive, especially along Highway 1, illustrates the risk perfectly. Under normal conditions, it's one of the most scenic routes in the world. But during storms like this, it becomes treacherous. Heavy rain destabilizes cliffs, triggering rockfalls and landslides. Entire sections of roadway have been washed away in past events, leaving no escape route when things go wrong. Officials stress that closures are likely, not as a precaution but as a necessity. This storm doesn't just test weather forecasts. It tests infrastructure, emergency preparedness, and public awareness. Every region faces a different version of the same threat: too much water, too quickly, for the land to handle. And with more storms waiting offshore, the question isn't whether conditions will worsen. It's how prepared California truly is for what's coming next. One of the most dangerous aspects of this weather pattern isn't any single moment. It's the persistence. Storms come and go, but when they arrive back-to-back, the damage compounds. And that's exactly what California is facing. As the first round of rain and wind moves through, it leaves behind saturated soil, swollen rivers, and exhausted infrastructure. Under normal circumstances, this would be the recovery phase. Instead, another storm is already forming, ready to repeat the cycle. Meteorologists describe this as a train of systems, each one following the same track, delivering fresh moisture to areas that haven't had time to recover. Flood risk escalates with each round. What was once minor flooding becomes major. Small creeks overflow into streets. Rivers approach critical levels. Storm drains clog with debris, reducing their effectiveness just when they're needed most. Urban areas face a unique challenge. Concrete and asphalt prevent water from soaking into the ground, forcing it to flow rapidly into drainage systems. When those systems are overwhelmed, water backs up into streets, homes, and businesses. Coastal communities face ongoing threats from high surf and erosion. Waves driven by powerful winds batter shorelines, undercut cliffs, and flood low-lying areas. Each surge weakens natural defenses, making the next wave more destructive. Inland, mountain communities monitor slopes closely. Even after rain stops, the risk of landslides lingers. Water continues to seep into soil, destabilizing hillsides hours, sometimes days, after storms pass. And then there's the human impact. Evacuations displace families. Road closures isolate communities. Power outages disrupt daily life. Emergency crews work around the clock, responding to flooded homes, stranded motorists, and downed power lines. The psychological toll is real. Uncertainty weighs heavily when storms refuse to move on. Residents watch forecasts not for reassurance, but for clues about how much worse things might get. This is where preparation becomes critical. Officials urge residents to avoid unnecessary travel, heed evacuation warnings, and stay informed. What may look manageable at first glance can become deadly within minutes when floodwaters rise or winds intensify. California's climate is changing, and storms like this are becoming more frequent, more intense, and more complex. Warmer oceans fuel stronger systems. Altered wind patterns steer them toward the coast more often, and landscapes shaped by drought and wildfire respond differently to heavy rain than they once did. This storm is not an anomaly, it's a preview. As the week unfolds, the atmosphere continues to churn, pulling moisture from the Pacific and feeding systems that show little sign of weakening. Meteorologists remain vigilant, watching for subtle changes that could escalate risks even further. For now, California waits, under dark skies, heavy rain, and the constant awareness that the next round is already on its way. Because when storms don't end, the real challenge isn't surviving the first impact. It's enduring everything that follows.